G'day and welcome to Cracking Crypto, where we break down the projects in the ecosystem that are changing how we view finance and how we invest. I'm Andrew Gagan. Stay in the metaverse, but to a very different project, Walking Between Worlds. It's a new community-focused project which seeks to capitalise on the NFT revolution. The goal is to energise global indigenous communities to amplify First Nations voices through NFTs. To tell us more are the founders, Vanessa and Tim Lee, joining us now. Vanessa and Tim, terrific to talk to you this afternoon. Thanks so much for joining us. So, indigenous culture meets the blockchain. What's your objective?
It's a very challenging thing, as you can probably imagine, given we've got the oldest living culture on the planet coming together with the bleeding edge technology that, frankly, in the Western world, not very many people know about. So there's lots of challenges associated with that.
So, Vanessa, what's your aim here? Is it in terms of protecting indigenous culture, but also, I guess, as I said, it's sort of meeting the blockchain. So it's a matter of bringing communities into that space.
It is, and it's if we look at colonisation, we see that indigenous people were left behind, and we're playing 240 years of catch up. So what we're doing in this space is making sure that indigenous people are coming up onto the same level as non-indigenous people into the.
You might have lost Vanessa there for the moment. We'll just try and get Vanessa back. But Tim, let's pick it up with you. So essentially, Vanessa, they're talking about, I guess, that so many indigenous cultures being disenfranchised at the moment. That is a problem, isn't it? Just as far as that digital divide that has emerged.
It's a massive problem in terms of, and just as a practical example, I mean, because I've been in the space since 2015, a lot of people have reached out to me who are established artists, and the conversations about NFTs and Twitter and all these types of things, it's a lot easier. The conversation lasts about 45 minutes or so before they've actually got a fair platform to start going forward with research. The similar conversations with indigenous artists in general terms, from the experience we've had so far, that same conversation is about 2.5 hours. And that is after they have already spoken, for example, with Vanessa in terms of trying to understand more about the project for a similar time. So there is inherently a massive catch-up that needs to be held. And so it's very much the longer-term vision of what we're trying to establish is to generate a playbook here in Australia that actually empowers indigenous communities to be on the same level as other artists globally, and then to roll this out on an open source basis to other indigenous communities.
So you have come up with an NFT collection, Genesis, our Genesis. Explain that to us. Again, what you've just launched that, have you?
Well, yeah, the Genesis collection is the first collection. So it's the first collection that establishes the whole concept. You may be aware there was a hack on OpenSea on the weekend. So just out of precaution, we wanted to see how that played out. So we're launching on the 26th of February, which is on Saturday, just so that we've done the analysis relating to what happened with the hack, and we're satisfied that we're in an appropriate position to launch. So yes, it's launching, but the Genesis collection, it's the first of 3 collections. So this will be the important one because it's the first time globally that a genuine indigenous collection has been produced, using the generative structures of a lot of the other profile picture projects that we see.
And which artists are you getting involved in? How are you doing that?
Well, we've got 4 artists on board. And they've been fantastic in terms of what they're looking at. There's a gentleman called Toby Cedar he's been exhibited at the National Gallery in Canberra. His pieces have been bought by the Australian Navy. There's a woman called Bibi Baba who's very well known within the Indigenous community as an artist. She had a piece of art stolen, for example, or copied perhaps, depending on the legal definition, that was actually used in a Polish hotel resort to actually cover the floor coverings, the wall coverings, etc. And she got nothing for it. So she's had a legal battle over about 8 years. So that she's one of the artists. We've got two. There's one guy that is a contemporary indigenous artist, very much into hip hop and taking that more contemporary style. And that's a guy called Jacob Watson, based out of Maitland. And we have Jimmy Tyday, who's based out of the Torres Strait Island. So he's very much working around traditional themes. So the overarching theme is for indigenous dance, in terms of interpreting indigenous dance from the lens of contemporary through to traditional. And it's very much, we chose dance primarily because it's less sensitive from a cultural perspective. One of the key things that Vanessa, our chair, is really focused on is ensuring that we're dealing with the culture appropriately.
And Tim, so you've broken this up into 4 pillars of empowerment that you call it. You got the collaborative engine, online education, curated NFT galleries, which you're talking about there. And then, of course, it's about providing that access for investors in this art.
Yes, I mean, that's part of the ongoing structure. The collections are all pieces. The first collection is 2,222 pieces, which was going to launch on 22/2/22 at 2:22 in the afternoon because of walking between two worlds. But because we had to walk through the third world of a hack, we thought we'd better delay it to the 26th of February. But never should a story get in the way of some marketing, but in this case it has. But the second and third collection will involve bringing on additional artists from around Australia. And indeed, we're in discussions with some international indigenous communities with the idea of doing some fusion pieces, for example, with Native Americans out of the US. So, I mean, this has taken us 12 months to get here. And it's very much from that, once we've built up the community engagement and also developed the, in startup terms, the product market fit of actually being able to sell product, generate revenues, provide funds for indigenous charities as chosen by the artists, plus empowering the artists. As a community, we're looking towards launching a community token, which will actually be funded by professional investors.
Yep.
That will actually enable us to build a platform that actually empowers globally. And it's very much, we've made sure that we've thought very carefully about the regulatory structures, which are critical in the global marketplace.
Look, I think Vanessa has just managed to get back on. We're pretty much out of time, unfortunately, Vanessa, but I also gathered that you're looking at establishing a cultural embassy, if you like, in the metaverse. Is that right?
That's right. And the reason we're doing the cultural embassy is to bring in Indigenous people right at the forefront of the metaverse, because as we all know, there is the danger of racism and sexism growing out of control in the metaverse. So bringing Indigenous people in at the same time, Indigenous law, LLRE, and respect for the culture, we start to, hopefully we can reduce that happening and start to have a say in the protocols and processes of the metaverse. So it's bringing the oldest continuous living culture into the newest digital phase together.
Terrific stuff. Hey, look, great to catch up with you, but we really look forward to see where this project goes. Vanessa and Tim, thanks so much for joining us from Walking Between Worlds.